Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.
Welcome back to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with me, Karl Fitzpatrick. Well, this week signalled some positive news for Wexford on the jobs front with the announcement that US tech firm MTech Mobility was locating its European headquarters in Ardcavan and creating 25 jobs in the process. I'm now joined on the phone by MTech's CEO, Tony Fernandez, and the General Manager for European Operations, Jerry Whiston. We'll be discussing this exciting announcement for Wexford. But first, Tony, you are the CEO of the company which is based in Florida. So what is MTech Mobility and what services does it provide?
Of course, Karl. Yeah, it's a very exciting period for us. Amongst all the challenges that we're all facing, MTech is a company that has provided global services in mobility management, primarily in North America and into Latin America. The company recently started expanding its supply chain and logistics to be able to provide lifecycle services, repair services, and ultimately we had a large interest to expand these services into the European market. So if you think about all of the different companies out there in the world that rely on mobile devices and how that has exponentially grown over the last few months in regards to COVID, and how more and more employees are needing mobile devices to work remote, our business has really exploded. Our company provides the support and services to those companies and employees that use mobile devices. So everything from helping companies purchase the right devices, acquire them, stage them, configure them with the right software, security software, handle all of the procedures to get those devices out to company locations, to employees themselves, and then from that point, provide all of the support services.
So, Tony, would it be fair to describe MTech as an IT support and repair services provider?
It would be, and that would be the foundation of what we do. But, of course, all the ancillary services that go with that are very important to companies and employees that we support today.
And, Tony, this is quite a competitive space. So how does MTech differentiate itself from the competition?
Well, our differentiation comes that our core and foundation is a repair company. So we're able to work with all of the original equipment manufacturers that are out there and provide those repair services. That makes us unique because a lot of companies like us don't have that particular element in their portfolio. And a lot of big companies that are out there have actually relied on MTech to provide those services on their behalf. And we do a lot of work for different industries behind some of the other large brands that are out there that most people would view as our competitors or actually our partners.
And of course, software as a service has almost replaced the need for companies to make any capital investment in technology. Does MTech subscribe to this SaaS business model?
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of those types of requests coming in. We're now handling a very large deployment, for example, in the United States with a very large restaurant company that even through this period of uncertainty, they're preparing themselves to have the right devices in the hands of all their servers and bartenders. And in that particular case, that company was working with us and a leasing company to lower their cost structure and go into more of a monthly plan. And it is inclusive of everything from the device all the way through the services that go into that. And they have a lower monthly payment that they then pay to get all of the services out of one company.
So, Tony, who are MTech's typical clients? And has this shifted with the transition to remote working as a result of COVID-19?
Absolutely. So we service almost every industry you can think of because anyone that actually has an employee that has a mobile device in their hands or a laptop or a tablet is technically qualifies as a customer of ours. But our primary industries have been the retail sector, the hospitality restaurant sector, the travel, transportation, and recently healthcare has really taken a big boost. With the situation with COVID-19 in all the markets, we're seeing certain industries like our restaurant business, our airlines, cruise lines, actually struggling through this period. So we're seeing some real reductions in that area. But in other areas like food service delivery, in medical and healthcare companies and telehealth, those are actually industries that are exploding. So our profile of our customers ranged primarily in those industries, but in all industries, and also partners, large partners that we have located throughout each region of the world that rely on us to help them actually deliver those services. So companies that primarily don't have that capability today turn to MTech to basically assist them with white labeling those services and offering those services through the partner.
And Tony, I'm interested to understand MTech's size and scale in the US market.
Well, it's interesting. You know, we actually have been around in the U.S. since 2012, and have really in over the last 4 years, I would say, have really transitioned to focusing more on the enterprise and servicing our enterprise clients and our enterprise partners. So the growth in the last 4 years has been tremendous. Thus answering the question of, you know, why would a company right now expand and grow with all the uncertainty in all of these regions and all of these markets? We have no choice. The demand on us is continuing to grow. We're seeing our revenues double, if not triple, year over year coming from this area of the business. And now, as we've expanded recently here into the European market through Ireland, we're actually now just starting to assess the possibilities, not only to service U.S. multinational companies consistently across regions, but also the ability to establish ourselves in the European market as a quality provider of these services and partner with key companies throughout the European market, especially in Ireland.
Jerry Whiston, you are the General Manager for MTech in Europe, but start by providing us with an insight into your connection with Tony and why you chose Wexford as the location for this business.
Well, I had worked with Tony back in NCR Corporation when he was the VP for Managed Services, and I ran a big chunk of the Managed Services in Europe, particularly in the airline sector and in aviation and banking. So I'd worked with Tony in the past. He happened to be over here in Ireland with his family on a visit, and we met up for dinner with his lovely wife Linda, and we had a chat about things. And Tony was over actually scouting the opportunity to develop the U.S. operation into the European marketplace. And he was looking for places to do it, possibly the UK, possibly Ireland. And during our discussion, I kind of convinced Tony that Ireland was definitely the place to open it up, primarily because of the situation with Brexit, and also that he should take a serious look at it and work with the IDA. So he came back again and again, and we focused on buildings, we focused on locations, staff, training, universities. And I got to say the IDA with Brendan and his team in the IDA were fantastic in opening up the doors for us, entertaining the guys in the southeast and in Wexford. And from that, we made a decision to absolutely base it in the southeast. And I think Wexford was very attractive to us for a lot of reasons. We looked at Dublin, and what happened in Dublin was that the cost of employing people was far too high, and the retention was a difficulty there. But in Wexford, people can actually live and be comfortable in Wexford, and also commute easily. They're well educated. The people we've employed today have been absolutely fantastic, and it was a no-brainer to us in Wexford.
I was just going to add, Karl, that one factor that may have played into that is that it had nothing to do with my wife having a little bit of Irish descent. Well, apparently there's some descendants there of my mother-in-law's side of the family, and that's actually what started all this. I was actually on my first visit to Ireland with her on a 10-day tour like most of us Americans do, and she fell in love with it, and then met Jerry and Colette as part of the end of our tour. So, you know, as Jerry mentioned earlier in this discussion, he and I have a lot of history in regards to doing this type of work together. And frankly, I've supported Europe from the U.S. for quite some time with my former employer. I love the European continent, but I have to say I was amazed at Ireland. I was amazed with the people in Ireland. I was amazed with the people that supported us from the IDA, and how not only professional the whole experience was, but that had a lot to do with my decision and the support of our investors and board to actually expand in Ireland. A lot of compliments to the IDA, to the people of the IDA, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure who all your listeners are, but they should all be very proud of how they're being represented and drawing companies into the Irish area.
And Jerry, what specific supports did MTech receive from the IDA?
Well, the IDA were key in this, and Colette McCann, who was working with us, is the program manager with us here in Ireland, and she worked very closely with the IDA with myself, right, and they opened doors for us that we would never been able to open ourselves. While the guys were in the States, we were doing a lot of groundwork here, trying to set up a strong entity here, and certainly they opened up the premises, the banking system, the financial system, universities, education, employment. So they opened all those doors up and they made it very easy for us to get the information we needed to put a proper business plan in place with the IDA. And they were very, very supportive all along the way. Also, they were very entertaining as well, I got to say. They brought us out for excellent meals in Wexford, and they showed us around the place, which is a key factor. It seems that we're in the sunny southeast of Ireland, and it's a difficult one to compare with Florida.
Jerry, it's not lost on me that all of this was happening during the COVID-19 pandemic. So what level of disruption did this cause you when establishing MTech here?
Well, you know, the best plans laid out don't always happen. We were supposed to be operational by last April, May, and the big challenges we had, just everything slowed completely down. Even from the point of view of getting the building sorted out, getting leases, getting legal, getting financial aid in place, and even opening a bank account was even quite difficult, believe it or not. Trying to employ employees was a good challenge. We interviewed everybody over video conferencing, and the first time I actually met the individuals was when they walked in the door here for the very first time. But luckily enough, actually, the people we did pick have been excellent, and they've been very, very supportive of what we're doing here. There's been a few key people that I have to mention, and without them, it would be very difficult to set up a startup in the middle of an epidemic, right? The two top technical people we have here is Patrick Tyrrell and Dara Schlow, who are both from Wexford, and they've worked day and night with me to get this in place. And also Colette McCann, actually, who has been working behind the scenes as a project manager.
And Jerry, you are now responsible for growing MTech across Europe. So how are you going to achieve this?
Well, it's a twofold strategy. In the US, they have a very strong business model, and the first stage is to duplicate what they're doing in the US over here in Wexford. And part of that will be putting appropriate systems in place, getting the support structures and employees in place with the appropriate amount of training. But once we build that model up, the idea is that we go after indigenous companies, both in Ireland and in Europe, with the track record in the US. For example, we've already started our first contract yesterday, supporting over 20,000 devices for a major retailer right across Europe. So that's the first phase, and there'll be more of those coming along as we develop the business. But we're looking at the airline industry, we're looking at the utilities industry, we're looking at the Medicare industry here and in Europe.
And Jerry, will your approach be to grow this company across Europe on a country-by-country basis or by industry?
It'll be done by industry. Generally, the crossover regarding countries tend to be the same in our business with mobile devices. So it would most definitely done by country in a point of view of the location of the business. But regarding the deployment of services, will be done on a European basis.
And Jerry, as the business grows, is it your plan to roll out country-specific offices across Europe, or will the Wexford office provide pan-European support?
Both of us certainly come back to the offices here in Wexford. I mean, the logistics from Wexford is no different than any capital city, and I found and improved it over the last few weeks here. And indeed, a lot of the tests we did was around how do you support something in Frankfurt and how do you support something in Athens. You know, these days with transportation the way it is, it's so easy to get equipment back and forth, and also with communications the way it is, it doesn't really matter where you are anymore. So the only reason we would actually have feet on the ground in any country would be is if we had a logistic organisation that did field services, and that could be a possibility going forward. But there's plenty of companies that are doing that. But there's a lot of companies not doing what we're doing at the moment in the mobile support business.
And importantly, it was announced that 25 jobs will be created by MTech in Wexford Town. Over what timeline will these jobs come on stream, and what specific roles will you be looking to fill?
Well, the timeline is, most businesses, is quite dependent on the actual take on of the businesses. And with COVID, it has slowed things down to some extent, and other areas of speed them back up, as Tony was saying earlier on. So our plan at the moment is to take on probably 8 or 9 more people between now and the end of the year, and then probably go look at about another 10 or 15 the early part of next year, and build up to 25, well within the 3-year period, probably to the middle of next year, I'd imagine. Skill sets, they're primarily technical roles. So on the repair side, we've been looking for people who have mobile experience regarding mobile devices, iPads, handheld terminals, and typically somebody who has a certificate level or diploma level. I'm prepared to provide a certain amount of training as well to build the skill sets up. Because one of the challenges we did find on the education side is there's no specific skill for repairing mobile devices. And we'd like to work with the Education Board here in Waterford and Wexford to look at a program for apprenticeships next year in this area. The other area we'll be looking for is around project management, sales and administration.
And finally, Tony, what is your overall ambition for MTech in Europe over the next 5 years? And if that is realised, how many jobs will that translate into for Wexford?
That's a good question, Karl. And I believe from the approach that we're taking right now is that we've already taken on some business. In other words, we had, as we were working on the expansion in Ireland, we were already working with some U.S.-based companies to actually secure some multinational contracts and some support for them. So clearly the first segment of customer acquisition will come from companies that are multinational in the United States that have services in Europe and have the need to actually drive consistency in service delivery between their services in the U.S. and their services in Europe. That's a logical one, and we've already started down that path. But we also have looked at the European market and the ability to deliver these services, and understanding the response that we got here in the United States, we assessed that for Europe. And we believe that in Europe, there's also some areas that are underserved today that we have basically filled the gap in the U.S. We believe that we're going to be able to fill those gaps in Europe. So when we look at our plan of growth and the headcount that we acknowledged with this release, I view that as the beginning. I see that as a conservative plan for supporting the multinational expansion from the U.S., and then also the attack of that European market and the support that we're going to provide these industries and these companies that really need those services. So that is the plan right now. But one thing that we've also have taken into consideration, and we've already gotten some response from the European market, is that there are European companies that are actually trying to enter the U.S. market and actually looking to provide services and extension of those services to Irish and European customers that want to enter the U.S. market. We're already entertaining a couple of customers that have interest in doing that. So I believe that we're not only going to hit these numbers and that they're conservative, but assuming that, the economy starts picking up and everything starts to stabilize going into 2021, we potentially will see us exceeding that. And Jerry and the team in Ireland have the ability to support that expansion and have the capability and the capacity with what we've invested in there in Wexford.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Tony Fernandez and Jerry Whiston from MTech Mobility, and I look forward to seeing the company continuing to grow from its Wexford base.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Southeast Radio.